recording start. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh well, okay. Ah, damn. I'm so sorry about that. Amy, did you have anything? Because if not, I will answer or attempt to answer Katerina's question, even though she's not here. I can kind of have a little stab at it. How did you have anything?
I don't have a question. I have maybe a dynamic linking thing. And I feel some uncertainty if like that's okay to share that or not.
Oh, yeah, about something that's kind of come up.
Yeah, just with
Yeah.
Mina, my curiosity was just around the word safety,
Mm,
because this is something that I live in a lot of
mhm,
just even knowing what that word means or
mm,
feeling shame that it like I don't know what that word means or
mm,
and so I was just curious about maybe playing with some language of that
mm.
it's not the word safety that maybe I don't know, like comfort or better or things like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
are like accessible
yeah,
for
yeah,
someone who doesn't know what safety is or I have no safe place.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but it's just that's all that came up for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
Thanks, Amy.
yeah.
Great, great observation. Um, Let me have a little. I was just on the.
What other words, can I ask Amy, what other words do you use?
Well, I can't speak to it in a client. I just this is what I live with day in day out. It's been a real exploration over years to understand what safety even means, what that feels like.
Yeah, because
Um,
the word safety is a judgment of a feeling, or not
yeah,
a
and like
judgment, but a label.
yeah, or like what do people feel when they feel safe? Because I didn't grow up with that, so it was very confusing to me for a long, long time, and I would just get very like shame based around it.
Mm,
So things that I could sense into, um, like where I'm saying like maybe better or comfortable. Like I like that idea, Joe, that you were sharing about someone orienting in their space, right?
mm.
Or maybe it's pillows or um, is uh,
Things
like
like words like I'm away from harm, I'm protected, I'm contained. Sometimes it's containment.
yeah,
Like kind of, the thing is just to kind of get, I've done a similar exercise with somebody using like exploring the language of it and getting them to kind of just map out. And those are some of the things that have kind of come up, just like real basic, like, like, not basic because it's big, but kind of stripping, okay, well, safety is like a big thing and it can mean so many different things to different people. So there's no one unified normal of that. But we can all kind of say, in this moment, in this space, am I away from harm? Yes or no? Is in this moment, in this space, is there any immediate danger? Yes or no? In most cases, it might not.
yeah,
That might actually have some complications for the people, and some a small amount of people, and that would be a different thing. But you're kind of starting there. Like, what's the real things that we can kind of just, even if it's one or two things, grounding and have okay, yeah, that is something that I can register somehow. Mm.
Yeah, I'll just say I think this, like we did talk about other words, but I think just even like it drew their attention to something that they now had to contend with was missing, and they didn't realize. So there was like a lot of stuff that came up around that, which is
Yeah,
okay. Like I was
yeah,
like, this was always maybe going to come up given their
yeah,
level of
yeah, yeah,
falling apart
yeah.
around conflict, around interpersonal conflict in their life, like all of those things. And this is someone who grew up like not very privileged, so they don't have a pet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
they have a really tricky relation. They were
Yeah.
raised at some point by
Yeah.
their grandparents. They have a tricky relationship with them. Like we've been through a lot of the typical things. The one thing they said is they sometimes liked walking, and so we explored like what's in
Mm,
their neighborhood.
mm,
Like we talked about that over a
mm,
period of
mm.
time. I found it just really challenging. I was like, I just didn't. I kind of really hit a bunch of walls at various points around
Yeah.
how do we build that for them as like a mechanism of
Yeah.
their life. Um,
And
and
some,
sometimes yeah,
I was just going to say, sometimes, that we're working, if you ever work with people, who kind of maybe have come from, um, war zones, refugees, you are kind of starting with, is the roof over my head safe? So that we're kind of getting, right down to molecule stuff, really, which is, we walk past all the time, right? That we have the privilege of, actually being in a building that is, you know, um, not in imminent threat with a roof that's, the roof that's covering me with water, um, in front of me. So we kind of sometimes have to kind of go to, the kind of real, very important, real day-to-day stuff and kind of grounding that. And that's, that's just that's good work. It's good work. It's good work. I'm gonna just kind of like we if we want to come back to this, we can come back to it, but I want to make sure that Katerina's question is and let's all kind of chip in on this one. So the main question, I'll read it out, Katerina's. I wanted to bring a case where a client right at the start of the session says at the right session that they don't want to be in their body today and don't want to have to feel. I love this, by the way, because they're expressing how they feel rather than performing. So Katerina's acknowledging that that's a really good sign of the relationship, which I agree with. But would be interested to hear how Joe would approach this. A little context. I've had this from a very new client as well as from a longer term client. The new client's first session was good in that she was able to gently explore her sensations. To the input from her surroundings and my invitations and observations. So it wasn't that she came into this work with difficulty to be in her body. Not that this is linear, of course. So she's acknowledging that she would hold de-shaming, normalizing. So yeah, so there's the question that she's ending with is, I know it's not straightforward because everyone's unique, but how might I approach that? And Zarina, I know you said that you've had clients with that as well, so maybe I'll kind of bring you in for a bit of dynamic linking. But what I would say to this is a couple of things that kind of struck out this with, and I'm not saying that Katerina hasn't, but just to kind of go right back to the beginning and to the basics. What is the contract that we're working with people? Those of you that have got kind of multifaceted modalities, so if you've kind of suddenly gone off and learned some somatic work and you've been working with someone for a year on a top down, there is a kind of different there is I know that from kind of working in different ways, there is kind of quite a process to making sure that you can almost kind of recontract and that feels okay with that person. Or, if it's a new person, just making sure that the ways that you work are kind of discussed at the front. There's two different things here where it's a new person and that it's the second time. My gut curiosity with that is that maybe the session was overwhelming. So there is a difference between being able to kind of articulate one's somatic process and be within a window of tolerance and be, you know, and be and and the difference between being able to articulate and look like you're in your window of tolerance. which is really kind of speaking to, potentially some kind of appeasement mixed with freeze, maybe. But again, as Katerina says, like if that person's saying, I don't want to be my buddy, then that's a really good thing. So the major thing here is what I take from this is that there is in both of these instances, there is a there is a good enough therapeutic alliance, a strong enough therapeutic alliance for the person to say no. And someone once said to me, the phrase that the healing really begins when someone says no. So when someone is drawing a boundary with us as the helper, that's like a really good sign of healing. So I would first of all just kind of be like, great, tell me how you know that that's a no. Right? Without kind of going like hugely in, but just kind of being like, is it okay if we just explore this no? Like finding a bit about why, because there might be some good cognitive reason that you can listen to, build into the plan of work together, and then explore, is it okay if we just be with how that was for you to say that? Because that is a really, that's a great boundary. I'm really hearing it. And I just really love to hear how that is for you to make that boundary. And then you might be actually in the territory of a little bit of celebration, a little bit of grief, a little bit of mix of everything. But the point is not walking past that the boundary has been made, because that's probably the biggest thing. So that's kind of how I would. Those are the points I think that I can take. I can take without Katerina being here. So I wonder, Zarina, if is there anything that you wanted to kind of add to that from a.
Um, I love the quote of healing starts taking place when there's a no.
I think it might have been Nick actually. I can't say for sure. I do
Mm,
like to say, but I think that
yeah,
one might have been a Nickism.
yeah. Um, yeah, and I can definitely relate to the piece of perhaps the previous session was a bit too much outside of the zone of tolerance. Um, yeah, what can I say? I mean, it's it's always surprising how deep vocalizing goes because I'm also a body worker and you would assume that like that is it's because it's hand on, it's so obvious that you're in the body, but often like the there can be really really strong also reactions after the session, like things that come up and then they don't feel contained in that moment.
Mhm.
Um, because during the session they felt held and they felt safe perhaps, and maybe there was some freeze or something, but then
Yeah.
afterwards there can be this like surge of something kind of releasing. um, yeah, I think by honoring the boundaries and the no, and they in my experience, and there's an opening at some point to explore it. But I love what you said about exploring the no.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that.
Mhm.
Mm.
Thank you, Zarina. Thank you.
Mm.
Does anyone else want to kind of add anything to anything that's been said or this in particular? I can go over by kind of 5 minutes if everyone wants to just hang out for a wee while longer. If there's anything else that wants to be said, let me just open up the chat. Actually, I saw some little things, little notification things.
I guess
I,
just on the, oh, sorry.
please, Kim, go ahead.
Okay. I guess just on the tail end of that previous question, I've been with clients before who really don't, aren't open to any sort of feeling of their body. And Like I was with a client even last week where I myself got like I was attuning to their overwhelm and then I forgot what the point is. Excuse me, I have like a terrible frog in my throat today.
That's right.
What the point is of feeling your body. You know what I mean? Like I forgot like why are we doing this again? If it's so hard. And then I got off the call and I had to reorient myself to the purpose of bringing our clients into the body in the first place. And I was surprised by how much I had to think about it
Mm.
because I've gotten used to. So where I'm going with this is I wondered if you could speak to this, Joe, but like for me, the answer is I want to bring them into the body so that they can feel where constriction and expansion happens because that is their inner guidance system and that's where we can access the release of that charge of trauma. Would you add anything to that?
And is this are you saying this out loud because this might be something that you might say to the client?
Yes.
Yeah, so great. So I think it's great. But what I would maybe just kind of play around with is this language about getting into your body,
Hmm.
into because they already are.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself can actually be quite supportive because it doesn't feel like I'm going to go into my body. It feels like there's this kind of like have to go, some sort of like hero or heroine's journey over the bridge to be in a body, but we're actually already in, right? And it can feel quite daunting. So, maybe just start by recognizing, well, you are embodied. Look, touch. Here's your brain, here's your head, here's where you're talking from now. Yeah. And then that head is in this. It's in the body, which is in the skull. It's in, it's carried by a spine. You can pop your spine on the back of the wall. Your spine's connected to the like almost like, knee bone's connected to the thigh bone. Da, 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 da. Just a little bit of that just to say where you are in your body. Right. And then maybe explore. So if you are in your body, what language would you use then to talk about the um to kind of replace the in bit? Is it kind of like, is it more about becoming friends with the sensations of the body? Is it about more about trusting the sensations of the body? Is it more about being able to listen to the sensations of the body and developing some listening skills? And they just to allow someone maybe to choose a word that feels approachable for that, you know? But there's a kind of like a different array of words that you could play with. Does that?
Yeah, it's funny that I use the term be in your body because I'm noticing now that that was me trying to be quick with my question, and I
Mm.
don't actually use that phrase.
What do you use then?
I would say the sensations in our body.
Hmm.
Like I talk about interoception a lot because I'm a
Yeah.
yoga therapist.
Yeah.
So if we can notice the sensations on the inside of our body, those sensations have a lot of information about what works for us, what doesn't,
Hmm.
what, and also that's what Dr. Peter Levine says is the doorway into releasing a traumatic experience is to be able to work with that charge in the body. And we have to be able to make contact with sensation in the body to do that.
Hmm. Yeah. Great. Great. And you
Okay.
you might also just kind of, I'm sure you do this, but kind of, re-emphasizing also that um, you know, again, it might sound a bit semantic, but if you're kind of working with people that are a bit nervous about kind of body sensations, maybe kind of have a play around with the word charge and, drop in some talk about sensations not just as charge, actually as pleasant and things that can help us orient towards more pleasure, more, connection or things that feel right. So there's just a little bit of a balance. And because I'm just thinking, and
Yeah.
I heard it from someone else actually, I can't even remember, but someone else kind of once said something about the word kind of charge, with very highly charged people, that word might
Mhm.
sometimes be a bit too much. And I know that, the folk that you're working with have generally come out of kind of or have, quite danger in their background and yeah.
Yeah, especially psychological danger.
Yeah.
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 Okay, great. I guess maybe I was just wanting to check in and make sure I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
I kind of
Yeah.
I lost it. I was like, is this why we're doing this?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
No,
it can
I
be
get
so
that one.
hard.
Sometimes, it's like I just want to normalize that, sometimes that kind of happens. Sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? What and why am I doing? There'll be those days, and then, like a couple of sessions in with people 3 weeks later or whatever, and suddenly, people are reporting back from some things that you might have thought were just sort of small, tiny things. You've registered them, but they're reporting back as like how what a significant difference that has made in their life. But I think sometimes with some folk there is this kind of like just sort of hanging in there, sort of like feeling, and it can be a bit disruptive to kind of like, yeah, in our own systems, like, what am I doing? Why am I doing that? So yeah, definitely been there. Definitely
Yeah.
been there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So Johanna said, creatively working with pots, clay, soapstone. Yeah, absolutely. Um, uh, Yeah, I mean, animals, for those of us that are lucky to have them, are um, always a really good way to go if we've had them. Um, I'm so sorry that I didn't press record. That is like so naughty of me. Give myself a little reverse pat on the back. I know. Do you know what, Mina? It's just, aren't they? Yeah. I've been away for a while. I was away for like 3 weeks over Christmas and New Year. And I'm just enjoying like a love affair with Zach again, I'm like, oh God, I just forgot like how good it is to be in your presence, just doing nothing. Because then I got back and I had flu, just like doing nothing and just like having him there, It's just, yeah, they're great. We love them. We love them. Okay, my loves. Yeah. Reach out, pop something in, pop anything in the feed if there's anything else that comes up. And I've made a note about this sort of masterclass stepping stones, neurodivergence. Probably need to break down into a few and attachment. Yeah, I think Nick would be really good to kind of start with that, and then I might do kind of
Yeah,
something more on the implicit side. Great.
thanks.
Bye. Bye, Johanna, darling.